And welcome into Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. This is a true Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, as I'm enjoying a Sunday morning cup of the delicious Morning Brew blend from Fazenda. I highly recommend it if you like strong but not bitter coffee. It's smooth. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor is presented by Fazenda Coffee. You got to go check out Fazenda Coffee. Whether you like dark roast, medium, light roast, whatever, you go check it out because they've got you covered. Retail, wholesale, they do it all. They are Boston's specialty coffee roaster. Go check out FazendaCoffee.com and specifically FazendaCoffee.com/Morning Brew for the brew blend, the Morning Brew hats that Razor's wearing today. I have a first run ever sweatshirt on, and also the Clean Canteen, the traveler mug. Go check out Fazenda Coffee. Thank you to FazendaCoffee.com. This is a nice morning as the Bruins. We weren't sure what to call this brew because we were going to do a brew, then we weren't. Razor, we're going to get into your travels because holy smokes, Razor, you've gone full hockey parent 101 on us. You have not crazy hockey parent. You are a sane one, albeit crazy. And I mean that respectfully because I'm the same freaking way. You know what? So we're not calling it a special brew. We're calling this we don't know if we were going to get to it brew. We didn't think we were. Then we could. We're here. And it's fun. Why not? Bruins have won 2 in a row. They beat the Ottawa Senators the other night in Boston. 2-0. And then the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday afternoon in a game that, wow, it had, I mean, you want to talk about storylines galore, Razor. It had a lot of stuff happening for it. And the Bruins with a tremendous third period win 3-1. All right, Razor, how many miles do you think you have driven since we last spoke?
So, well, fortunately, the reason we're having the brew is because I probably chopped about 500 miles off of my weekend because the kiddos didn't make the quarterfinal round. So that saved me, and that allowed me to wake up in my own bed this morning and do this. But
to save so people understand, one of Razor's children was Decky is playing in Waterloo, Quebec. Not to be confused with Waterloo, Ontario, or even Waterloo, I think it's Iowa. You know, it's Quebec. So what is it, about 4.5 hours away from Boston?
Yeah, about that. Just you cross the border up in Vermont. It's another hour from the border, not quite to Montreal. So yeah, the kiddos were up there Thursday, Friday, and they came back last night. So I was planning on going up yesterday afternoon after I drove home before the game.
Start
back. So there you go.
You're bearing the lead.
I am bearing the lead.
Thursday night works on Thursday. Go ahead.
Thursday, I worked the game with Tuca and Patrice. As soon as I get out of the Watertown studio,
unobstructed view,
I hustled to Granby, Quebec. So I get to Granby, Quebec at like in the middle of the night. Cross the border. Of course, I'm the only one crossing the border at that time of night.
3 a.m. What time? What are we talking?
I got into Granby at like 2:30. It was clear all the way till I got to Quebec, and then it started to snow. So I lost about 15 minutes on the back end just because the plows weren't out at 2 a.m. either. So slowed down 2:30, got up, went to Decky's hockey game, which fortunately he showed up for. The team showed up for. Proud dad, he got player of the game that day, so he was very and he doesn't typically get that. Like he's just he's fine. So he had a very good morning. He was very smiley, and if I had missed that, I would have absolutely had my heart broken. So it was 100% worth it. But of course, I have to get back for an afternoon game on Saturday. So woke up Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, 5:36, got in my car and drove back down. Was going to go back last night had they made the playoffs today. They didn't, fortunately, so that saved my night and saved this Morning Brew episode.
Okay. So we're happy that we have this Morning Brew. I'm happy that you got a little rest and you're able to home. I'm bummed because I'd always loved to see Decky and his teammates, at least, play on Sunday. I hear we were supposed to go to this tournament as youngsters, but because of COVID, everything was effed up. Heard wonderful things about it in this quaint little town and all that. So I hear there's a lot of coach beveraging after the game. And I don't mean like, I'm talking like the coaches go to a certain room.
The kids get chocolate milk and the coaches go to the other end of the rink. So it's, the directors and the people. It's the second oldest tournament in Quebec. So there's one that's the big Pee Wee tournament that everyone hears about isn't even close to these two tournaments that they have. One's 60 years old. This one's going to be 50 years old next year. So Mario Lemieux played in it, and the history of it is important to the people, and they're proud of it.
Okay, a couple of quick questions. Quick question before we move on to something else here. How does the Prius handle the snow? I got to know that, because Quebec snow at 2:30 in the morning could be dicey.
Yeah.
How does that
it's 4-wheel drive. It's completely fine. Of course, not quite as comfortable as maybe a couple big rigs flying by me, and the Denali's going by me on the highway, but it's more than adequate.
Oh, I'm actually impressed. My back, I just have a back. I think I'd be buckled driving in a Prius that long. You must have some of that gumbiness from your playing days. Still good. Yeah, the hips, exactly. They would be a mess. Here's the other question. We're gonna, I think we're gonna bring in the Razor Yawnometer post game after just about, I don't know. If you watch us on YouTube, there's at least 3 Razor yawns per show, if not 4 or 5. How the hell did you stay awake all the way? Like you're ready to go to bed at 9:30 on a non-game night. How the hell did you stay awake?
Thursday is a long day for me. That's why, I'm up real early with to getting kids to school and practice. So I took a strategic nap on Thursday, knowing I was going to be up, but you're on like adrenaline fumes, in the last hour and a half. Like it's just autopilot, and I've got snacks or whatever I need to do. So it's for whatever reason, the radio's on. It keeps me awake enough, but there's a ton of yawns all the way up. No question.
Yeah, absolutely. The Yawnometer, maybe we'll get somebody to sponsor it, right? Who out there loves Razor? Who doesn't love Razor? If we could get it, maybe we ought to get either ought to get like a gummy company for sleeping or No-Dose, maybe.
I know.
We ought to sponsor it. And we could have a counter every game for the Razor Yawnometer. Because it's a real thing.
Slept a lot last night, boy. Like,
I'm sure.
Not driving. Like Decky and I watched the end of the like we were out before 10, and I got up, as long as I needed to this morning.
Yeah.
It was great.
It's actually good.
No yawns this morning.
All right. Speaking of the game, and I know this is a Bruins centric show, but it's worth mentioning. Boston University played Boston College this weekend. I walked into BC last night to watch the game, to start prepping for the Beanpot. Both Razor and I work it, folks, and we both live in the area, so to speak, so we can get there. And I know this sounds kind of corny and everything, but again, and I had this moment of, we are really lucky to have all the college hockey in the world, to have the great, the pro hockey, and we have, within an hour from here, we've got, everything. And meanwhile, it's BU, BC, Northeastern, Harvard, Bentley. I mean, you can go on and on. You've got D1, D3, and I'm not leaving anybody out intention. I'm just saying I can't go through all of them. You've got the NHL, the AHL. I mean, you can find, everything you want here. And I'm just like, this is unbelievable, right? And the place was packed, almost 8,000 people at Conti. It was awesome. The reason I'm bringing it up, and I don't know if anybody listening, watching got to see it. For the first time ever in my life as a hockey player, coach, analyst, a rule was called that whoa. So long story short, sitting in our seats right at the beginning of the game, BU at BC, the referee goes to center ice. And I thought it was going to be like, this was after by the way, Todd Angeli had a great anthem. I think he was more pumped for this one.
Yeah.
They brought Todd out at BC for this big game. And the referee goes to center ice to turn on the microphone. Even the PA announcer had to say, can you please shut the music off? And they did. And the referee announces, Boston University has been assessed a minor penalty for coming on the ice too early for warm-up at the 20-minute mark, or what, and it's actually not technically 20, it's the 0-minute mark, I guess. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting next to Jake, and I'm like, whoa. Long story short, there's a rule in the NCAA for warm-up. Officials have to be on the ice first. Officials go out first. Not in the NHL, folks. I think you guys know that. Officials aren't out there. Have at it. If something happens, get going. In college, officials have to be out there first. The Boston University Terriers started a freshman goaltender who had been playing the last 2 years in the USHL, year and a half, actually. Mikhail Yegorov. I think they call it Yegorov or Yegorov. Forgive me for pronouncing it wrong if I did. They call him Mike. He's 6'5", 180 already. Anyways, he goes out there like a rookie lap type of thing. I'm told I wasn't there for it, but I'm told he does a couple of laps. But the doors closed behind. Like nobody, I guess, told him that this was that you can't do this. And I don't know if the guy who opened the door said, "Go," like Free Willy, like go run, like Mila, just go, Mila, run. Cooper would have stood there and just looked at me, like I'm not going out. Mila runs. By the way, Cooper just came in. He says hello to everybody. They get penalty. Long story short, again, BC scores on the second shot of the game. The guy, there's a rush down the ice a few seconds in. Kid makes a nice right pad save. The rebound to the middle of the ice. Teddy Stika scores 1-0. The only goal of the game, besides an empty net goal. Have you ever seen? I've never heard. I don't say I never heard of it. I never saw that call. It kind of flabbergasted, but it's a real rule in college hockey.
Yeah, I guess. And yeah, you would never have known that. I'm sure the refs had to double check in the rule book afterwards. Like, this isn't right, but let's make sure we get this, what this is. So,
and who called it? How did they know? I guess they must have skated.
The linesman must have went out there and the goalie's out there already. And they're like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
Yeah. And again, for the typically hockey karma just lets that one go away and okay, a little mistake and whatever, 0-0 after the first 2 minutes. And we'll never hear about this ever again. But of course, it's the biggest game in college hockey to this point and it definitively changes the game and becomes the game winner. So it was great for the drama of it, great for the story of it, and adds to the story. Pando and Brownie, they'll be talking about that game, when they're coaching still 15 years from now. So, interesting. There's always something at a college hockey game, folks. If you haven't gone, it feels like every single time there's a random review, there's a random penalty, there's a random something that no one's ever thought of that you have to work through and try and figure out. So, case behold again last night.
I'll tell you this, and we'll move on to the Bruins stuff. But this was just interesting. First of all, I thought it was a great, amazing environment. Just like I'm sure Friday night at Aganis was a great environment. Another sellout crowd there, a little over 60-something hundred there. It was much more of a defensive structure battle. I thought BC was the better team. Again, I did just a bit in the game, but not like Friday night where they ended up, scoring a ton. What was it, 6-2? Yeah. I think on Friday night. BC's good. They're deep. They're strong. Both goaltenders were really good. I think this, the Fowler kid who plays for BC, excellent. Boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what, Razor, they think there's going to be a lot of interest in him leaving after 2 years, but I say stay for 3, just like a couple of other goalies have done at Boston College, and then they'll have a successful NHL career. But I don't know. I don't even know the kid, so I don't know if he would leave after 2, but Jacob Fowler's really good. But I like this Yegorov. I just from one game, I thought his presence was really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, he looked fine last night. He's big. It's all about consistency for him. He's got all the tools and he's got all the, the size and the movement and the physicality and the ability and played at on a bad team at a pretty high level in juniors. So
Omaha,
it's going to be all about, for a team that has eyes on Frozen Four, if he can, get into that is he the guy that can carry them through the next month and a half? Can he play every night? Can he play back to back? So that's kind of the question there. And certainly got in earlier than they kind of expected to.
Yeah.
Had the game gone differently Friday, you wouldn't have seen him Saturday. So they've got decisions to make there now, which will be interesting.
Learning experience.
Beanpot preview done. 14 minutes into our show. There you go.
There you go. Beanpot preview is done. Razor and I will be at the Beanpot, both of us. That's February 3rd and 10th.
A week.
I know.
Sneaky. It's only a week.
I know. I got to get ready for it. Speaking of it, making an appearance, both Razor and I and Ryan, we will be at Heritage Hall February 1st. So that's a week away too, right? Yeah, a week from yesterday. Pregame, before the Bruins take on the Rangers. If you are attending the game, if you have a ticket to the game and you are a fan of Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, come visit us there. There is a fee, a small fee to attend the Heritage Hall, but it gives you access to everything there. I don't think they're not charging it because you and I and Ryan will be there. It's because there's a small fee to get in there. And but come visit. We're going to do a live Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor from 2 to 2:45 before the Ranger game that is on ABC. So we are not working the game, but we will be there. We will keep reminding you, but Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor from Heritage Hall at TD Garden, February 1st, starting at 2 o'clock. All right, now let's dig into the Bruins. 2 games in a row. Well, they've given up 1 goal. Again, they shut out Ottawa 2-0. They beat Colorado 3-1. The Ottawa game was a major response to the New Jersey game, Razor. You were doing unobstructed views, so you have a little, it's not that you're not analyzing. You're absolutely analyzing, but it's a different perspective. You're talking to a couple of other guys. You guys had David Krejci in there too. But this to me felt like one of the most focused and determined games of the year for the Bruins to right the proverbial ship after, quite honestly, a crappy game the night before.
It was a big one, and we talked about it on the Brew Thursday or Wednesday night. We talked about, it was just such a bad second period, just from the back end, and Sacco talked about it after, moving the puck, getting the puck out. They just didn't do a very good job, and you're going up against an Ottawa team that's waiting for you. They'd been on the road, so you're lining this up like, oh boy, like how are they going to defend against this Ottawa team? But they caught Ottawa in the week that they weren't scoring, that They were struggling. They were able to lock it down. They were able to play very conservatively and just allow the game to come to them. I thought they had an unbelievable first period. The first half, they were cooking, and they could have scored 3 or 4 right away. Forsberg made some great saves for Ottawa right out of the gate. So it was just a great response and a great show of resiliency and a great show from a group that is far from looking ahead. These guys are working day to day still. They are not thinking about anything but the day to day. And it was a great 2.5 days for this group after the game in New Jersey to prove that this isn't a retool, a rebuild, whatever everyone wants to kind of say, break this down, blow this up. This team doesn't want that, and this group doesn't want that, and they have high expectations for themselves.
How impressed were you with Joonas Korpisalo in that game? I don't think he had to steal it, but I thought he was incredible. I don't think he stole it at all, but I thought he was incredibly right for that game. And I know we had discussed, we didn't know that Swayman had a very minor upper body injury at the time after Wednesday's game. And we thought, and I'm not actually, I shouldn't say we thought on TV that maybe they would go back with Swayman. We didn't know that about Jeremy, but it ended up being the right decision, not to play Jeremy, give him a little more rest, at least, hindsight being 2020, but also, sometimes, and revenge is the wrong word, but you need to have that. Sometimes even the pro athletes need that extra motivation. I think Joonas had it in that game. I didn't realize that he had gotten when he was shown on the big screen in Ottawa the week before, that I guess there was no more than a smattering of boos from him. Remember, folks, he played in Ottawa just for 1 year, played 55 games for them. It was not an easy year for him or the team. I guess the fans didn't greet him that warmly when he was there. And you know what? I'm sure he seems like a guy that nothing bothers, but you got to use that as motivation too. And it worked out well. I thought his focus is always good, but there was just something right about his game, even more on Thursday night.
He was awesome. He was fantastic, and he has been. Again, the record up to 9-4-2. That's like if he's 500, the Bruins are in huge trouble. So there's a lot of credit to where they are and how they've kind of kept their head above water through all these injuries is a credit to Korpisalo. The scenario on when, usually you wouldn't put a guy in if he was playing the next night in that situation, but it turns out it's an injury related, something, a little tweak or whatever it is that happens to Swayman. So that's why he goes in. And that's what threw us for a little bit of a loop, because typically, you wouldn't put Korpisalo in if he was playing the next night. You would just let Swayman ride it out, let Korpisalo rest and be ready to go. So that's the case there. And in hindsight, I guess it was probably good. He got his 20, he felt better getting his 20 minutes. He felt like he played a rhythm 3 games in a row, 3 and 4 nights. So he felt more of the rhythm against Ottawa and didn't have to think too much about playing his former teammate. Didn't have to get asked by Canadian media in the morning. There was no story. There was nothing to it. And that's also a pretty good way to play your former teammates as well.
Morgan Geekie scores in that game. Had a gorgeous pass from David Pastrnak from coming around the net from below the goal line. I mean, those two guys have just mastered that play. And yet also, and we'll talk about this in a moment too, because the Colorado game, they connected. You cannot look past the play of Pavel Zacha. He's become kind of the seal guy, the guy that, seals areas. Not stop.
The Bergeron.
The Bergeron. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. He's done that. And it's been fun to watch. And then David Pastrnak scores an empty net goal. David had a very good game in my eyes, to the point where at times people say, and I get this at times, why is he on the ice on a 6-on-5 as part of the 5? At times. Now, I know we see Ovechkin out there. That's a little different in the sense he's chasing. And you want those guys that are hungry. But I thought the Bruins played the 6-on-5 better, Razor. Thought they've been a little passive at times. Not thought. They have been too passive. But then I thought David actually earned it. He busted his ass to make a really good play, and Seals put Shabbat into a kind of a uncomfortable English area. And then Shabbat's pass, he just steals it and goes down the ice and deposits in the empty net. I thought he earned being on the 6-on-5 in that game.
Absolutely. And he essentially every night he earns it. There's a narrative. It's a weird narrative here that is absolutely nowhere else, folks. So whatever narrative you hear about 88 here in Boston, it does not exist anywhere else on the planet. When people look at what David Pastrnak is, if you went and polled someone what Bruin players should be on the ice 6-on-5 in Toronto, I would expect 88 and 63 are 1-2 on the list, one way or the other, all the time.
Do you think so?
I mean, a million percent. Yeah.
I would say, 63 in a millisecond. I think we know that.
In the hockey world, 88 for sure. Yeah.
I think, okay.
I had my hockey friend here yesterday. He's like, that guy plays and he competes harder than any superstar that I watch play. And he sees a lot of hockey games. He's like, he came out of the game against Colorado yesterday. He's like, holy smokes, that guy.
I couldn't agree more about
all over the ice. Like it's not even, it's close. It's not even close to anyone else. It's wild.
Okay. So then maybe we get off tangent here. This is a different compete level. I feel maybe it's a physical thing than we saw much earlier in the year. I couldn't, Razor. I mean, I'm going to say that lately he has been, yes. I mean, it has been at a different level. It is, I don't have the exact, I'm going to say 6 weeks or whatever. And I agree with you. I want him out there. I want Marchand. I want Coyle, maybe Lindholm, although he's been up and down, but you think he's going to be out there. And then 88, 88's a threat. But the last couple, he has absolutely deserved to be out there the way he's been busting his ass.
Yeah, no, he's top 7 in scoring again, just like that. It's like the whole, it's just, he's been amazing. He's amazing. And should have got more MVP votes last year. And if he carries this group, probably should get some more this year too.
I was talking to another buddy of mine, another fellow broadcaster, or texting with him, and he said 88 probably doesn't get enough attention nationally for what he's doing now.
Yeah.
And I said, I agree, given that this team has been offensively challenged at times, and what he's been able to develop and how he's using his passing as much, if not more of a weapon now than his shot.
Yeah. Well, now, and Morgan has been able to figure it out. You can see him finding seams, like they're really connected. You mentioned that already, but Morgan's been able to figure it out. He's figured out the patterns of David. He's figured out the patterns of Pavel, and he's figured out the holes, and they're starting to really cook and really get it. And that's you can tell that it's relieved David a little bit that he's got that valve now. He's got 2 valves, not just the the 18 Zaka valve. He's got Geeky finding his spots too. So that's why that's connected and it's worked. And that's why you're seeing him. I mean, he gets 3 points every night now. It's Connor McDavid-esque. It really, like, the last 15 games is McDavid stuff.
Yeah. And Geeky has put himself into a very interesting conversation, or at least thought process now.
He's making money now.
Yeah, he's making money.
He was with when Monty was around, and he got healthy scratched 2 or 3 times in a row. He's wondering what he's going to do next. Like, that is a bad place to be as a player, folks. And all the credit in the world. He should be extremely proud of himself to work his way through that and keep his positivity up to a point where he didn't ruin his season, and giving himself a chance to get to this, and took advantage of the chance. And and again, we talked to Krejci, like, he talked about Morgan being smart, and David needs to play with smart players. He just has to. It doesn't work if he doesn't, because he thinks the game a different way. And he was talking about, you can see how Morgan Geeky thinks very similar. He thinks like a good hockey player. He knows where to go. And again, a lot of credit goes to Morgan Geeky for pulling himself out of this season.
Yeah, he's a big guy, not giant, but he's big. He's a big man. He's got that farm strength too, right? The Manitoba strength. But yet he's not a fighter. He is physical. And that was something that we talked about along with Barry much earlier in the season. He wasn't moving his feet. He was not physical enough. And physical being finishing hits, getting in on the forecheck, the battles and stuff. He was a step behind. And why that happens, rhetorically asking, folks, everybody has good stretches at work and then bad stretches at work sometimes. I mean, he was not in a good stretch. I don't know if you caught this in pregame. I had Sean Bildes, our producer, under Montgomery. 15 games, he had 1 goal, 3 assists. If we're just looking number-wise, he had averaged 13.29. That was his average time on ice. And a lot of it, you could say, was self-induced or an issue that he brought on himself. He had 24 shots in those 15 games, so just over 1.25 shot per game. In the next 30 games, heading into yesterday's game against Colorado, what do you have? 2 yesterday? 2 points against Colorado?
2 goals, yep.
2 goals, right. I don't think he had an assist. But so now in 31 games with Joe Sacco, 14 goals, 8 assists, 22 points, and averaging over 16:45. He's probably close to 17 minutes. That's a stark contrast. That is not an indictment on Jim Montgomery. That's just factual. You look at those numbers.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't working at that point for him with Monty there. And I think Monty was, he scratched him a couple of times. That's all you have as a coach, as a hammer, is ice time. You know that. I know that.
Yep.
So anyways, the numbers are stark. And it's now as a UFA to be, he's finishing a 2-year contract. He's entered into this. Do you keep him? Do you extend him? Does he become one of your most valuable assets if you're looking to make moves? Because we still have a ways to go before that. It's just going to be interesting. I mean, he's Razor. He has made himself very attractive to teams out there that are saying, geez, I'd love to add an element to my, let's call 6 through 9 guys up front to make us a deeper team. And we're seeing a guy physically can handle the playoffs and has the skill to handle the playoffs. And boy, we've always talked about this too. Let's just say you insert him in a second, third line scenario. Now he's not playing with a guy like Pasta and Zaka, but on the other hand, he really helps complete a team.
He could. I would love to put the light, if you're in a room and say, okay, David Pavel, can you envision playing with this guy for 3 years? And if this works, that can be a pretty good option, and you can build your team if you have that line in place over the next couple of years. If those guys, all 3 of them in the organization, thinks it's sustainable, you look for that being a pretty good line combination that could stick together at a decent price. The Zach Hyman of the Connor McDavid. So interesting how that certainly has to become an option, and it has to become somewhat of a priority for the Bruins to get to the bottom of here.
Bruins, Morgan Geekie has 4 goals in his last 3. He has goals in 4 of his last 5 games, 6 of his last 8. Holy smokes. All right, he's brought it. Yeah, it's really good stuff. Yeah. All right, let's recognize our sponsors, and then I want to quickly touch on that Colorado game just a little bit more. I want to ask you about playing after a major trade, not a small trade, not a medium-sized trade, a major trade that rocked the hockey world. Before we get to that, though, let's recognize Graciano Construction as one of our sponsors who's with us all year long. Doug Graciano and his crew serving Greater Boston, Metro. I mean, they serve a lot. So reach out to them if you're doing a project in the Greater Boston area, or go to GracianoConstruction.com. You can call them at 508-330-7589. There's really nothing that they won't do, can't do. They make doing a project at home actually, definitely enjoyable. Very low stress with them. Yeah, you always want to get the project done as soon as possible, but they communicate with you. They're very respectful of what you've got going on, and they bring new ideas regularly. You've got to check out GracianoConstruction.com, or again, call Doug Graciano and his guys at 508-330-7589. Used them numerous times. Love the work that they do and know that they can make a difference. Speaking of making a difference, RTN Realty. If you're looking to buy, sell, or lease a place in Mass, Rhode Island, or New Hampshire, you got to check out RTN Realty for all of your real estate needs. It starts with Chris Gentile, who's been in the business for over 22 years, over 2,500 transactions. You can reach him directly, 617-835-0845, or email him at cgentile@rtnrealty.com. He will listen to what you want. He absolutely will let you make the decision more than his decision, but he will guide you. There's no question. He is not a wallflower. He will help guide you to where he thinks you best your needs are best served. But he will listen to what you're looking to do. Tell him that the guys from Morning Brew, Jaffe and Razor, sent you over to RTN Realty. Again, Chris Gentile, 617-835-0845. All right, and then our other sponsor for the show is Apex. You want to do the Apex most entertaining moment of the Colorado game? You want to just do that? All right, you bring us that Apex. Okay.
Geeky second goal.
Okay.
David Pastrnak, cross crease pass again, just like he did against Ottawa on back-to-back nights. Freezing Wedgwood, looking at Wedgwood the whole way. No one on the ice understood that there was even a pass option, whether it was Wedgwood or the Colorado Avalanche defense. The only two guys that knew it was there was Geeky and Pasta. A brilliant play and a brilliant comeback from the Bruins, and in their studious win on Saturday afternoon in a really, really, really tough spot. Long week.
It was a long week. All of a sudden it became a long week for Colorado too, after they had a mega trade go down on Friday night. You want to talk about a news dump? Holy smokes. I mean, Friday night, Mikko Rantanen traded from the Colorado Avalanche. Essentially, it won't go through the whole parameters of the deal. Mikko Rantanen goes from Colorado to Carolina. Colorado gets Marty Necas and Jack Drury from Carolina. There's an element of Taylor Hall going to Carolina, some money retained and all that stuff. But the Bruins are taking on a team now on Saturday that does have Necas and Drury in the lineup because they're in New York. Get ready to play the Islanders. That's an easy flight. That's a shuttle flight galore. You don't even need to send the PJ for that one. If you're the Kroenke Sports Group, you're like, hey, here you go. Here's a first-class seat on Delta.
Yeah.
Big spenders, right? You get them into Boston, and they do. All right, but the Bruins, it's an afternoon game. Does another team making a trade like that, and not a small trade, a mega trade, does that impact the other team that they're playing the first time? Do you think it does? And we'll get into it impacting Colorado, because it definitely did impact them, I think, both in a good and a bad way. But does it impact the team that they're playing?
I never you understand what it changes, like the power play changes your pregame because you don't really know what it looks like. You assume they're going to plug 88 into where Rantanen was, and that'll be it, and that's just kind of your assumption. But your preparation isn't quite the same. You probably don't feel quite as comfortable with it, and what it's all going to look like. But beyond that, beyond the chatter a little bit, and a couple of your buddies that are on the other side that said this and said that and all this, and how are they feeling? You're not changing your game, or you're not affected by it too much, or nearly as much as the team that has to deal with it.
Biggest trade do you remember that you were part of on a team that had to go out and play that day? Did that ever happen to you that day? And it's not that same day. You know what I mean? It was late at night before. Ever anything like that?
I don't remember kind of like mid-season deadline. Of course, there's always stuff, but like in this situation, I don't remember. I don't remember one in particular where it was like the guys got dealt in the morning and were there at night kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They were literally like ripped out probably of their pregame or their Friday night meal. In
Boston. They got a call while they were out at the steakhouse, and hey, get home. We got a flight at 8 a.m. to Boston tomorrow morning, kind of thing. So yeah,
both players, very interesting. So the Bruins, though, I will give Colorado credit. They, especially McKinnon and Natchez and Drouin, that line for a while, they were revved up, man. They were absolutely flying. It was almost like, I feel Jared Bednar said, you guys just go play. Like, don't so much worry about structure. Use your instincts, go play. McKinnon ended up with 6 shots in the game. Natchez had the puck on his stick an awful lot. I do think eventually they were doing so much with the puck against the Bruins at times. They were a hard match, their speed and their quickness, Razor, for the Bruins defensively, especially in the first period. That I think they ended up actually, as the game went on, overpassing the puck, that line, instead of just rocketing it. They probably could have, it's easy to sit here and say, have a goal or two, but it felt like they kept realizing, we could make one more play. We could pass the puck to the net instead of shooting it, etc. That's a good, bad thing. Confidence is great. The bad thing is all of a sudden they didn't score, and the Bruins were like, no, we're going to take it to you in the third. But I thought that line with Natchez looked pretty good. The Rantanen thing, it surprised me. But on the other hand, if they weren't going to sign him to the $13 to $14 million he wanted, how do you hold on to him and then lose him for nothing when all's said and done? And their GM, Chris McFarland, said, we had to make this move. We had to try and get deeper. And they're not done. There's no question they're not done. They will look to add a number 2 center there.
Yeah, certainly they will. Certainly there's tons of and the ability to do this deal and get to the bottom and say, hey, Rantanen, are you signing or not? This is where we're at. We need to know now what's it going to take. And when you hear the number's not it, then you pounce and you make the move, and you make it to a team who has a philosophy of taking on rentals and running how it goes. So We'll see how that experiment goes over the next few years for Carolina. It's a separate story for us. In regards to and again, so back to Colorado, they get a guy who's got term this year and next year at 6.5. You can easily work it into your budget. You can make more deals, get more players. You have lots under the cap to do so. So it puts Colorado in a really good spot. I think it's a savvy deal by them, knowing they couldn't get Rantanen, so they get a lot for it. But it certainly affected them yesterday. To your point, they were a little too unselfish, trying to find each other and not quite on the same page. They had an idea of where they wanted to be, but not exactly on the same page with their passing and with their seam plays. McKinnon's just ridiculous. The good news is, and I thought the Bruins did a great job of this, was not letting the 2 guys get out on the rush. There was no rush opportunities. There weren't 2-on-1s. Makar wasn't making plays from behind his net all the way to the other end. The stuff that the Colorado got was with 5 people in the zone, and the Bruins with sticks and lanes, etc. So I thought they did a good job of that. And again, I know you kind of alluded to it, was the energy that Colorado had early was beneficial because of the trade. They had a little bit more jump than what you typically would have in an afternoon game. And the Bruins had to stand up to that because of their 4 games in 6 nights, 5.5 days. Like, that was a really long week, and they certainly couldn't match energy, but they were able to contain it enough.
Yeah, and the speed of Colorado as a team speed is better than, well, not just the Bruins. It's better than most every team in the NHL. That doesn't guarantee a victory, but your point about the rush stuff, if you allowed that to get wide open, that could have been scary.
Yeah,
that could have been real scary. Let's just talk quickly about the game here. The shots in the first were 12-5 in favor of Colorado. Nobody scored. I thought Swayman was excellent in the first. I don't know if he stole it, Razor, but again, I thought he was brilliant in the first period. I thought his focus, his reads, everything, his composure, excellent in that first period. No goal scored in the first. In the second period, there's a goal scored early, a minute and a half in. Arturi Lehkonen gets his 19. Kid's going to have 25 to 30 goals this year if he keeps it up. Lehkonen gets it. The assist to Parson and Middlestat. The shot come from the right side as they did. It was off the rush, actually. So to your point, they get in, they create a little space. The shot came from just outside the right face-off circle, and it beat Swayman far post. You tell me as a goalie, but I thought it was a pretty damn good shot. I mean, I understand you always want everyone saved. Are you in agreement on that one, that you're like, that was kind of a sneaky, quick release and a good shot, or is it something Jeremy could have done there?
Jeremy thought it was a bad goal. He thought, he should have had it. He just overplayed it. It was a good job of Lehkonen getting it. The puck was in his feet, and he kind of still got a lot on it and got it back against.
Yeah, and I thought the quickness of the release
changed the angle enough that he was able to go backside. But Jeremy overplayed it way too much. I had a pretty good view, and as he was moving down that wall, I was like, "Ooh, that's too much room over there." So, Jeremy knew as much, but and the big thing is, right, when you're playing that team and you're not generating a lot because you don't have a lot of energy and you're tired from the week and you're hanging on, you're worried about McKinnon McCarr. When you give one of those up, you're like, that seemed too easy, seemed too free. But again, he did a great job. The team did a great job of not letting it get to them and just continue to press forward. So that was good part of Jeremy's resiliency, good part of his game as well.
And the Bruins only had 3 shots generated on net in the second period. So they had 8 shots through 2, but they're only down 1-0. Colorado folks had 7 in the second. So you're talking 19-8 were the shots. As much as Colorado had chances, time in the O zone, again, they were holding on to, but the Bruins did a nice job with sticks. Thought they did a good job with blocking some passes and shots too with their body. But they also just did do just enough, Razor, of keeping them to the outside. It said It wasn't like 30-8 were the shots. And I think you would see a real whoa. The key moment in the game, though, no question about it, was the penalty kill that started at the end of the second period. David Pastrnak took an offensive zone penalty for tripping, the first penalty call of the game, 18:09 to be exact. The Bruins, and this can happen from the penalty kill. I used to love playing PK. You get energy from it if it's a good PK, because it's not about skill there. It's about will. And it's about thwarting a really high-flying, high-octane opponent, and you can build off it. The Bruins did. They killed off the first few seconds of the penalty to start the third period, and then things start to change. It is amazing how subtly, and maybe not so subtly, Razor, how a game can change with moment like a penalty kill like the Bruins had.
Yeah, and the timing of it was really good for the Bruins too, because they're basically hanging on and we're going to push in the third. And if it goes down 2, it's really hard to push. We know that, the league's just so hard at that point, and they probably wouldn't have had the energy to get through it. But down 1, big kill. Okay, all we need is one. Let's go. Let's push. They get the energy from that kill. Colorado's power play surprisingly not as good as you would expect, or as I expected until I looked at it. Huge bump from it, and then your best players grab the energy. Your best line at this point in time grabs the energy from it and goes down and makes a nice rush play and gets a little break off Cale Makar's foot, and 1-1, and the crowd finally gets going. You have a ton of energy, and now you've been able to survive, and now the game's back, tilted in your momentum.
25 seconds into the period is what Razor's talking about. Morgan Geeky's 14th, David Pasternak's 34th assist. The other assist went to Andrew Peeke, who gets the puck up. Pastrnak is going to take the puck down the right wing side. It's a 3-on-2. There's back pressure coming, but the Bruins, Pastrnak takes it just wide enough, and Geeky slows down enough. It's the center drive by Pavel Zacha, though, that helps just create enough space for the pass from the right wing side. We'll call it middle left. It wasn't all the way to the left side, but it was more middle ice where Geekie gets it and releases the puck immediately. A low shot that ends up eluding the goaltender, Scott Wedgwood. We thought Blackwood might play, but no, they throw Wedgwood into the net. And it goes by him on the right pad, Razor, for the first goal of the game. And the Garden is alive 25 seconds into the third.
Yeah, it certainly was. And again, the team got energy from that, and they were able to really make a push at the last 19 and a half minutes of their week.
All right, let's go 5 minutes later. It's going to be the two of them again. This was already the apex most entertaining moment of the game. Razor talked about it. David Pastrnak to Morgan Geekie. This starts, though. You have to back up, as far as I'm concerned, to the dump in, and then David Pasternak's skating, going hard at the goaltender, Wedgwood. Wedgwood is going to come out of his net to his left, so that would be the Bruins' right wing side coming in. He comes out of his net to stop the puck. Because Pastrnak, Razor, is screeching in, like he's coming in, at high speed, I think Wedgwood just just shoots the puck behind him to what would be the Bruins' left wing side, and Zacha was there already ahead of it, seals the wall. It almost reminded me of the play. You got to go back to that Ranger game. Remember when the Bruins, it was Swayman, he rimmed the puck, and Chris Kreider was left wing wall right there.
Yeah.
And he sealed it, and it led to an opportunity. That's exactly what happened there. Zacha seals the wall. He reads it. Wedgwood doesn't have time to set the puck up and do anything else with it. He doesn't elevate it. It's an easy stop for Zacha. Zacha gets low. They start the play. Pastrnak gets it behind the net. And then, as you said, confuses both Devon Taves and Marty Necas as to where to go. There's a wide open space for him. And then Geekie slides in. He goes stealth to the post, and he puts it in on the right wing post there. And the Bruins are up 2-1.
Just a monster goal and back-to-back goals on back-to-back shifts from them, and just changed the entire emotion of the game, emotion of the building. And now they were in the point where they can stay aggressive, but also get back into their bit of a defensive shell where they don't have to stretch and open up and can control the game as well with Colorado.
All right, so that makes it 2-1 game, and then at the 1957 mark, David Pastrnak from Brad Marchand and Charlie Coyle, empty net goal, and the place goes bananas. Everybody's happy. The Bruins win. Let me just throw this out there because the Bruins finished with 15 shots on goal in the game. The last win with 15 shots or fewer for the Boston Bruins in a game, not at home, but just in general, October 15th, 2003 at Dallas. They had 13 shots and won 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that in net?
Well, that was me.
There you go.
That was Mike Sullivan's first win as a coach for the Bruins, and it was the assist on the first goal was Mr. Who else? 37, Patrice Bergeron.
Pretty heady stuff right there. That was the last
day.
Bruins win. Did you know that? Did somebody told you that?
Joey Mack told me in the room after, like when we were doing the reporting stuff. He's like, "Do you know the last time that happened?" I remember us getting outshot pretty badly that game, but it was a different. Like we scored in like the first couple minutes of the game, and then we just held on. It was different back then.
That's compliments of the one and only Ben Boma, who is a statistician extraordinaire, and he had that. I think you have to go back to something like 1950 something, he said, for the Bruins to do that at home.
That's crazy, huh?
Isn't that a win, 15 or fewer shots? All right, so the Bruins win. We're going to wrap up this show. They win their last two at home. Nice. And what are they, 8-1-1? Or was it 9-1-1 now?
9-1-1.
11 at home. All right, the next Bruins game and the next Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor comes after Tuesday night in Buffalo. We will do a show Tuesday. We will do a show Thursday when they're back home against Winnipeg. And one more time reminder, we will do a live pregame show. And I think as long as RC gives it the blessing and we can do it and everything's great, I think we'll live stream it 2:00 on Saturday before the Bruins take on the New York Rangers. February 1st at Heritage Hall inside TD Garden. If you're going to the game, check out online, Heritage Hall. If you haven't been there yet, folks, it's worth it. You'll spend 30 to 45 minutes to an hour. Bruins nostalgia, exhibits, interactive stuff. It's a cool place that they've built out at TD Garden. We'd love to have you stop by. All right, so the Bruins are in the thick of it right now. They get a day off on Sunday. They will practice on Monday, get on the road Tuesday to take on the Buffalo Sabres, a team that has been a teeny bit better lately, but, has still struggled themselves, continued to, as they're last in the Eastern Conference. Razor and I will be back with you on Tuesday night, post-game, as the Bruins take on the Sabres. Everybody, you got to enjoy your coffee. You have to. It's been better the last couple. It's been fun. Bruins are winning. Go help yourself an extra.